Hello, Humanities 100 and Humanities 200 students. This is your second video tutorial of our first week, and as you're getting started in your courses, the main thing that you're both doing in both 100 and 200 this week is examining this idea or this question of what are the humanities? What exactly is it that we're talking about when we say a course in the humanities, or I study the humanities, etc. So in addition to the reading that you're doing this week and the other materials that you've got in your actual courses, this video tutorial is just going to walk you through some of the basic and general ideas of what we mean when we refer to the humanities. And we're going to be specifically talking about what we refer to in these two courses. So the humanities itself is a very broad area of study, and so it can include a lot more than just what we're going to be talking about in Humanities 100 and 200 this term. But in order to keep our focus clear in these two courses, we'll talk about what we mean by the humanities for our purposes. So in defining the humanities, we can think about them in a number of different categories, or we call them mediums or materials or approaches. We can look at the visual arts, literature, philosophy, and the performing arts. So those are the main categories of the humanities that we're looking at. And then within each one of those four categories, there are other various materials and mediums and methods to look at. So within the visual arts, for example, we could be talking about paintings, we could talk about works of sculpture, drawing, architecture, photography, basically anything that is a two-dimensional work of art or a three-dimensional work of art that's tangible, that you can hold in your hands, you can actually touch, walk around. So it doesn't have to necessarily just be a painting, it can be a work of architecture, something that's in the world around us that way. Then when we look at literature, we can consider poetry, novels, prose, short stories, dramas, and plays, so it doesn't just refer to one particular kind of the written word. It can be a number of different genres within literature. And then within the realm of philosophy, we can consider issues like morality, truth, the study of meaning, the existence of our lives, those kind of bigger questions that we often ask ourselves, what has to do with the meaning of life, the idea of existence, morality, ethics, aesthetics, what we find beautiful and why we appreciate that particular beauty. And then in the performing arts, these are the more sort of active forms of the humanities, I guess you could say, those that can be performed live in front of someone. It can be recorded as well. This can involve theater, music, film and movies, opera, and dance, basically anything that can be performed, hence the name of the performing arts. So when we talk about the humanities in these two courses, Humanities 100 and 200, you can consider all different kinds of works of art. So you're not limited to just the more maybe traditional ideas of looking at a painting on the wall in a museum. You can consider a dance performance. You can consider a television show. You can consider a song on the radio. You can consider a discussion or a conversation or a work written about the meaning behind our existence as human beings. So lots of different ways we can define the humanities. A couple of other things to keep in mind when we define the humanities for this term and we define the kinds of works of art or objects or selections that you might be looking at in particular each week is that we want to think about works that are human or man-made. So these are things that are created by man. They're not something that's something that's found in the world naturally. So, for example, while a seashell or a tree can certainly be beautiful and in some ways referred to as a work of art, it's not necessarily considered a work within the humanities because it's not man-made. It's not created by an individual. Non-scientific, meaning that works of art in the humanities can't necessarily be measured or judged in the same way that objects in the sciences can be studied. There's no particular formula or method to follow necessarily in studying them or examining them or classifying them in some ways. There is sort of a method or approach to analyzing them and looking at them, but not in that scientific way in which these objects don't necessarily fit into a particular formula. Another way to define the humanities or works of art is that they are expressive. So they express some sort of human emotion, some sort of human endeavor, even if it's just for the sake of presenting something that's beautiful or something to be enjoyed by other people. And with that in mind too, they're meant to be things that are creative and not simply functional. So again, while we can find plenty of things that may be man-made that are beautiful or attractive or appealing to us, like a chair or another kind of beautiful piece of furniture, if its main function is not creative or expressive of a particular emotion, then we don't lump it within this category of the humanities. We would consider it more an object or a utilitarian object or a functional object. So when you're thinking of humanities, you want to remember these elements in mind, the arts and artworks that we're thinking of here, man-made, non-scientific, expressive of some sort of emotion, and creative, in other words, not simply functional objects. Why do we study the humanities? A number of different reasons. Some ways it's to enhance and to enrich our lives when we consider the different kinds of things that we are drawn to, the kinds of art forms that are appealing to us, whether it's films or music or looking at paintings, whatever it might be that enhances or enriches our lives is one reason we approach the humanities in a way of studying them. We can also study them to make connections across different time periods, across different cultures. We can find, and we will find in the weeks ahead, that there are many themes and ideas that link us all together regardless of where or when we have lived on this earth, and that man has created works of art since the beginning of time, basically, to help express those kinds of themes and ideas. So we can connect our different people and different cultures through a study of the humanities. They also offer us outlets of expression. So while you may have as your day job maybe one particular kind of endeavor in life, you can also have an interest in the humanities or the arts to help you um, express different emotions or feelings, and don't necessarily have to be an artist in your part-time or your night job, but you can enjoy the humanities and the works of art that also allow you to um, express yourself in that way. And the humanities also provide us paths to other knowledge. So many of us are learners with different kinds of approaches. Some of us are visual learners. We really need to see what we're studying. Some of us are tactile learners. We need to actually touch or experience what we're learning about. Some of us are oral. We need to hear it. Different approaches to what helps us understand whatever material we might be studying. So the humanities help us to understand that as well. When we can look at something historically or scientifically or mathematically, and we can connect it to something like a work of art, or we can see it as an example or an illustration of it, it can help us to understand it in a fuller way.